So let's see. I'll tell you one thing that I was like really thrilled about that I just kind of learned, and I didn't know this was the case, but I'm looking at this like group right here, this one in red. Now it's blue, but this acoustic drums group here are the acoustic drums, as you might guess. So these are just there's a drum kit behind me back here that we recorded, and there you can see there are some edits. You know, it was a straight recording, but there are a bunch of edits. There's some things that we felt were like maybe tighter one spot than the other. Like in particular, I kind of remember like after we did the first chorus, which you can see I've got markers up here. By the way, just having markers in your tracks is a really helpful thing to do. Just when you're finding sections, finding parts, and I think even over here, like I wrote like clean this up, like this is something I needed to clean up, which I'm not sure if I did or not. Looks like I might have. Um, it's just so helpful knowing where you are in your track. Um, Fix fill, like little notes. Sometimes I put notes to myself too. But there are some like edits going on here. And since this is a multi-track drum recording, it can be very easy to lose sight of what's happening. We got like some toms. He hardly played the tom drums on this track, so it's just right at the end. I think maybe one in the beginning. Yeah, right over here is like one tom he hits. So there's not much going on. But I have these all linked together, and you can link your tracks by just selecting whichever tracks you want to link together. Shift clicking, and then just right clicking and doing link tracks, or you can unlink them that way too. And what this does is just makes sure that every time you make a selection, it will affect all of the tracks in there. And it looks like I don't have this kick sample track linked, so maybe I might just select all of these again, and I'll right click and click link tracks, and you get this little chain link thing happening. And it just ensures that like if I move something over here, it takes everything. And it allows me to work with a multi-track recording like drums, where I have, I think, 5. Let me think here. We got kick, I got a snare mic, 2 toms. That's what, 4, and then I've got 2 overheads. So that's 6 mics. You know, when you have 6 different tracks you're working with, it can be very easy to lose sight of like one. I might edit like everything except the snare drum or something. By linking them, it keeps everything together. I can undo that and put those back there. So that's really handy. Um, a new thing I learned in this actual session, I'm going to show you the take lanes. So in the take lanes, what I discovered was that every time I make edits in here, if I'm moving stuff around, I still maintain my original takes. And that might seem obvious, I guess, but what's just cool is you always have your original take in there. So you don't have to worry about like losing the original performance or anything, because it's just always there in your top lane. So it just gives me like more confidence in playing around as I'm editing things. I can always just go back to here and get my original performances wherever they may be. I think that was just really nice, and I didn't mean to unlink that. I meant to stop showing the take lanes. So maybe what I'll do is just hit Command Z, and now I've got that back and linked. Let's see. Oh, we got a question. Okay, let's see. I know that when I want to add spice to a track for a new section, there is the insert silence function. Is there a reverse of this? Like if I want to cut out a section, do I have to move everything over? This can get annoying, especially when there's already automation lanes. There is a function. So insert silence, if I put like, well, let's do it over here where there's, so I don't ruin too much here. I can go into, I think it's edit, or create actually, insert silence, and I can like just insert a number of bars. So if I put 8 bars in here, Well, we don't really see that, I guess, because there's not much happening. But there was a, well, you can see it here. Watch, ready? So we've got these like little bass parts at the end here. If I do insert silence, right? Nice easy shortcut, by the way. Command I or Control I. I can insert, say, like 24 bars. And I've just added blank space. So as you're saying, like this could be a cool way to, like, if you know you want to like extend a part or add something in there, you can just insert silence rather than taking all of these and cutting them and moving them across. It'll save you some time. There's another function called delete time. So if I take this, so I think this is what you're getting at basically. You want sort of like the opposite. Instead of inserting time, we can go, is this under edit? Yeah, this one's under edit. So I use a shortcut all the time. Command Shift Delete is delete time. And it will just take this, and normally when I hit delete, I just delete that particular part of the clip. But if I want to delete like all of these bars, I can go to delete time, and it just takes all of that away. It deletes the little part I had selected and then just brings everything back. I use this all the time on the podcast. So a lot of times on the podcast, I'll be talking to somebody and I don't know, my dogs start barking or something. And I have to maybe I forgot. I usually take them out of the room, but I might have forgotten to do that. So they'll start barking. I'll ask the guest, sorry, hold on one second. I'll move the dogs out. And then when I go back to edit it, I just highlight that section and I hold Shift Command and hit delete. And that's delete time. Or you can go into the edit menu there, as we just did, and just take that away. So this is a really nice way to just cut stuff out and cut the entire portion of the song away. And much in the same way, there's also duplicate time. So whereas we had like insert silence, you can also just insert time. Like let's just say I want to extend this chorus, right? I can highlight that. I didn't quite get the first part. And if I do, I think that's Shift Command D. Shift Command D, yep. Well, let me zoom out so you can watch it happen. Let's just say I want that chorus to be twice as long. We can do duplicate time. And there it is. I just doubled my chorus. So I might decide like, man, that chorus should keep going. Duplicate time. And that will duplicate everything. And one of the benefits over just duplicating this is that it pushes whatever's to the other side over. So I don't duplicate over this, because normally if I just did duplicate, which is Command D, Control D, where would that be? Right here. Now I just lost that part of the song. I just kind of like pasted it over that. But Shift Command D inserts it. So it basically inserts the silence and then duplicates. Those are really handy when you're in arrangement view and you're trying to put your track together and you're trying to figure out like what goes where. It'll take everything you got, the automation, you name it, and it'll duplicate all that or delete all of that. Delete time is my best friend when I'm doing the podcast. Just Shift Command Delete, because even if there's just a long pause, maybe sometimes Zoom gets glitchy, which who knows could be happening to us right now, right? It could get glitchy. I can just kind of clean that stuff up nice with delete time. So if you're building like a track by like with loops especially, so say a lot of times I'm working in session view, I'll build like a loop for the verse, a loop for the chorus. I find those commands, delete time, duplicate time, are really handy for building the track out inside arrangement view. They blew your mind. Good. Shortcuts blew your mind. Cool. They're kind of like, they make sense, you know. D for duplicate, so Command or Control D for duplicate. And then if you want to duplicate the time as well, you just hold Shift on that. And if you want to delete that stuff, Shift Command, and that's the delete. It's definitely worth knowing some of that stuff. You can do cut time and paste time as well. So cut time will look just like delete time, except then you could paste that time in there too. So those are very handy very handy shortcuts there. So, okay, good. We got some questions answered. Nice. Let's see, what do I got here? So I think I've kind of gone over this with you a little bit about using the samples to like emphasize the drums. I haven't even played this for you. I'll let you hear a little bit. You can maybe tell me if the volume is okay. It's with my voice, if I need to adjust anything. Right now what you're hearing, this is the stuff that counts, the drums and the bass. And then I've got my scratch tracks. And the guitar and the vocals are, they don't count. They give you an idea of what the song is. You kind of just use it to follow along. I find it really useful to have like the vocals especially playing like as we're doing all the parts, because we can interact with the music. We can decide like, oh, there's like a space in the vocal. Space in the vocal, right? We can do something there to change the chorus. Like that kind of thinking just helps us come up with little things with like hearing the vocal, like I think it was in this chorus. Little fills we do. Something like that we can use to build off of, fill in that blank spot between the chorus, that line. So I'm going to delete that marker. Maybe. I think sometimes like the bass can help fix things if it hits with the drums. So if you remember, I was using the, I can't do this when everything's linked. So let me just unlink this for a second. I was using the convert drums to new MIDI track to get these MIDI tracks that are, I'm going to unlink you too. So I've got this MIDI track here that's based on the kick drum. You can see it hits wherever the kick hits. For the most part, sometimes I decide not to use the sample, but this is the sample, and this is the regular kick. I haven't really done any mixing on this yet, so that's what we got. So that's, you know, leaves a little bit to be desired. So I've got this sample in here that kind of help emphasize it. Originally, and I think last time I saw you guys, I just had all of these, let me turn this off for a second. I had all of these kicks at full blast. So they always hit that hard. And if we just go into this instrument, I don't have my push on. I'll turn that on so I can just play it for you so you can hear what this kick sounds like. It's an instrument rack with a 606 in there, and also like a plastic kick. What is it called? I don't even know. Studio Basic. So that came, I think, from one of the packs from Ableton. So I just took these two to put them together. And then as I play it on push, I'll start off soft to as hard as I can hit my push. There's a lot of variety in that. I originally had it all playing back at 127. velocity. And that's what I think they're all at in this MIDI clip. They're all the way up, right? No change, nothing. And I just kind of felt like it was robotic. So I was going to go in there and try to play around with all the different velocities by hand, but that seemed like a nightmare that I didn't want to get involved with. So what I did instead was extract the groove. Right click on the clip, extract the groove, and that then, I'm going to open up our browser here and our groove pool. That gave me this little guy, this groove for the kick drum. That's the name of the audio file. And what a groove does, just kind of, I guess, quickly, is it takes the timing of this particular audio track. It could also be MIDI. It takes the timing and it essentially quantizes. You can use it to quantize these notes to the performance up here rather than to the grid. 'Cause we played along to a click, but as you can see, these kick drums do not hit on the grid. He's generally kind of on top of the beat, and sometimes a little bit behind. I guess it depends on the part. But generally the way he plays, he just kind of comes in a little early. And I mean, I think he does a great job playing to the click, but you know, being a human, you are going to have some, you know, variety and slight inconsistencies, and that's a lot of times of what we call groove. So we're extracting the timing. Now I don't actually need to use this is timing. This is the this parameter will move our MIDI notes closer to the actual timing of the kick. I have it down at 0 because I don't need it, because I already did that by converting the MIDI track to drums, or the drums to new MIDI, vice versa. So I already got the timing, but I'm just using the velocity here to affect the kick drum. And to be honest with you, I'm probably not going to leave that at 100%. Zoom on out here. I actually believe that I get better results when I put it somewhere around like 80%, which I can just 85 maybe even, whatever. Well, I'll dial in that right amount, but it gives me more variety in those kicks. Pretty similar to me right now. This seems to be a little bit of a, I don't have the groove applied, do I? I don't even have it applied to this one, so watch what happens. I took it off, that's right. That changes the sound of that kick quite a lot. Let me just make sure I've got that on. Alright, I only took it off that first one. Cool. So, at 100%, it mimics the way he played these kicks. And it kind of always feels like that second hit, he like hits a little harder. And you can kind of see there, like, sometimes there's a little bit more energy in there. They look like a thicker waveform. And if I adjust this velocity, if I bring it all the way down, right, to 0, now it's not affecting the velocity at all, so we just get those really heavy kicks. But as I start bringing it up, say 50, a little bit of variety. So like that one, for instance, was much quieter. These will probably be a little quieter. They just sound a little bit different. All the way up, and then it completely alters the velocity. We could actually see that happen if I were to take this clip and commit the groove. Watch what happens to all of these velocities down here. Now they just moved all over the place, and they're kind of low. But we get the different levels of his playing in there. So I probably don't really ever want it to get all this low. You know, I don't know if I want to have that much variety, so I'll undo that. And I'll probably I've been finding 80 is kind of nice. I'll have to really dial it in, but that gives me kind of like a little more aggression on the kick drum, higher velocities. We can always look at it, I guess, right? Make sure I'm on the right clip. Cool. And if I commit this, so now we're like kind of in the middle of the velocity range. Undo that. And that'll be up to me to kind of dial in. But I do find that it's nice to have the velocity being manipulated by the actual drums, by the actual performance. So as I've like listened back to some of the other stuff I've done, I'm hearing that those samples are a little bit too perfect and consistent. It'd be nice if they had a little more movement, a little more kind of wiggling around along with the way he's playing. So, yeah, definitely some difference there. I can already get a feeling, you know, after listening to this 164 times, like the movement of the drums is nice. It just feels a little more alive and human, you know. So that was a fun discovery to just apply that groove to it. You know, I didn't really think about it because I already had the timing, but then to use it for the velocity, I think helps a lot. And is much better than going in there, I think, and drawing them all in. There were a couple times, and I'll probably have to fix these on a case-by-case basis, but there were a couple, and I've already replaced them with MIDI, but there were a couple of these kicks that didn't trigger a MIDI note. So I had to draw them in myself. And those get kind of messed up. They don't really respond so well to the velocity. They usually wind up being really quiet, so I have to kind of do them themselves. Like here you can kind of see like that kick didn't get picked up. Or I might have actually decided not to emphasize this, because this is a real quick kind of like, I'll let you hear it. Right over here, it's a fast kick. Bop, 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 you know? You can hear it here. I just decided to emphasize the one here. Or that might have just been how it turned out, and I totally lost my spot. But I'm finding like sometimes it's nice not to emphasize all of the kicks that he played and just maybe like the heavier beats. And I know he did later on, he plays a couple of those like really fast notes. This I think is like a real quick double kick. Or maybe that was actually a snare. But at some point I know he did that. And it seemed to disrupt the groove to overemphasize them. Yeah, like here. So this is a double kick. But on this MIDI track, it's just one. So when it's all played back, let me take out this scratch track here so you can just hear it with the bass. And that'll be this one right here. Oh, I lost it. I think that was around 111. 111. There it is. Right here. So it becomes more of like a ghost note. And I think the bass may have... No, it didn't. I don't know. Maybe he didn't do that. He might have just been doing like some faster notes. But it's kind of nice. Instead of like a real heavy boom, 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 it's just a little more subtle. Boom, bop. It's more like boom, bop instead of boom, boom, bop. If that makes sense. Let's say, hit the save button just because I don't know why, but force of habit. I'm seeing you telling me Control S is the best shortcut, and you're probably right. That is the best shortcut. That's one you have to know. Command S, Control S for saving. Definitely make that part of your normal workflow. Let me see. You guys have any questions on any of this right now? Sometimes I wind up just talking and talking. Anything? Take a little drink.
Have I got my mic working?
Oh, cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I heard it.
Awesome. I don't have any questions. I was just checking on that.
Okay, cool. I'm going to pull up another set from this project here. And this is just a little detail, really, that I've been playing around with that I think I'm going to do more of. So I'm always thinking of, like, when we get to like a new part of the song, something should like happen. You want stuff to happen. I don't know where I heard it, but like a good rule of thumb is like for a section to feel new, at least 3 things need to change. I don't know if that's a hard and fast rule or not, but I like it. It's just kind of a good way to think about it. Like, okay, I need at least like 3 things to happen for this to feel like a new part. And that last song, for instance, it's 3 chords the whole time. It never changes from those 3 chords. It just goes into like quieter parts, slightly different grooves, different vocal melodies and stuff. So I'm going to want to do stuff to change the parts so it feels significant. A lot of that's going to happen in the guitar playing and maybe like in some of the ornamental stuff, synths and things that we decide to add in background vocals. But I'll also want to do it like with the drums, with the percussion. And in this song, I think this is the one I did. Yes. So I got this one track called Wide Snare. I'm not sure what this is. Check this out. Okay, so I got my snare drum. I've got my snare drum sample for emphasis. And then I've also got this other one called Wide Snare. And so I'll maybe let you hear a minute or so. So this song really starts out with lots of toms. It's kind of this, like, we keep calling it like primitive caveman style. And just to the bass player's credit, this is only 5 takes that we did on this one. Pretty straightforward. The guitar is scratch and the vocals will be scratch. So they don't really count. That's the first time you hear the snare. So the snares come in right here for the first time. Having this, see if does that help a little bit with the volume? Or do I need to do more? Yeah. Okay. So we got this other section, which is now called Grand. But it's the same. Actually, these are different chords, I'm sorry. But I wanted it to have more of an impact. So I thought we could do that with the snare. One of the ways to do it is with the snare. So I've got this track called Wide Snare. I mean, this is sort of like the grand finale, right? So this track is called Wide Snare, and it's a duplicate of the snare MIDI track. And on this one, I've got these two claps, and I don't even know. This is something I had, right? Casio times snare 1, Joe Trapanese. I've collected so many sounds and samples, I'm not really sure what that means and where it came from, but I put those samples without too much thought. I put them right in here, and that's what it sounds like. And I put one on the left and one on the right. And we can see in the, I used the note delay device, right? Note Echo, I'm sorry. Note Echo is like a new one with, what is it under here? Yeah, Note Echo. I guess it's really a Max for Live, but they're putting it with the MIDI effects. It's a Note Echo. So if I were using this normally without the mute button through, it would sound, we should get an, let's just mute it. So it's so fast that we're not even hearing it. 25 milliseconds, so I get longer. So there, you got that like extra hit that happens about a second later. I had it at 25 milliseconds, I think. So short. Is that as short as it goes? Nope. 25. Sometimes it's easier to just type it in. 25. And I'm muting the input, so we don't hear the first one. We only hear the second one. So that creates this like effect of like one hitting first on the left and then the one on the right being delayed by 25 milliseconds. And I think I have stereo going on in this Zoom call. I think I have my original audio. I don't know if you're hearing it that way.
Yeah, it's in there.
It is, cool. So if I turn this off, it should sound pretty much up the middle. But when I turn this on, you should get this kind of like wider, almost left to right feeling. We can make it more drastic if we want. That's going to be really drastic. But there's like a number somewhere around like 80 or 90. Maybe even a little lower, I guess. Like, all right, so even here, like at 43, I think you can probably perceive it as two different hits. It sounds like two different hits to me. But as I go down lower, our ears stop really hearing it as like two, and now it just sounds like one. And maybe that, now that you know that.
Two distinct hits to like the Doppler effect.
Yeah, the Doppler effect, exactly. It creates that kind of like moving thing, like something is traveling, and it's a good way to create like some spaciousness in your mix. It's also possible you can create some phasing issues this way too. So I wouldn't do it with like my kick drum or something super important, but a sound like this that's not really, this is just like little sprinkles on the cake. It's not even all the sprinkles, it's just a couple of them. It's like the blue sprinkles. So it's going to just give my drums like a little extra action. So when we go through, I'll get rid of the guitars and stuff. So when I turn this on, just get like a little more energy out to the sides. I don't even know how loud it's going to be until I really have everything in here. And actually, right there, for whatever reason, I don't have one there. That's interesting, so we'll go fix that right now. I'll show you how I fix things with this. I'm really just drawing in the notes. And probably with this, I don't need to be super accurate. I could probably get away with a little bit of a delay because, you know, the snare, the samples that have to be right on are the actual snare sample has to really hit with the snare. But these I could probably get away with a little bit of funny business. A little flamming. But I'll turn it off. And that snare just gets like a little smaller. Back on. So my thinking is probably going to be I'm most likely going to have this come on, not right when the snare comes in, but when this grand part comes in. So it's already like the fact that the snare's even playing is a big change in this song. There's been really no snare except like those 2 or 3 snare hits. But once I get here, we're trying to emphasize this change. You hear it in the guitar. Like that. The hope is that this will just sound a little more big, more grand. The point of that is not even so like you hear it necessarily, but you feel it. And I think those little things, once everything's in the mix, like they'll add up. They don't necessarily need to be super obvious, but they'll just kind of make this part feel more intense and bigger, which is what we're trying to do. The goal for this song is to start real small, possibly with the bass, possibly with the drums. We gotta see who wins that fight. Not that it's a fight, but we'll just have to decide whether we want to start with the bass, we'll start with the drums, or just start with together. But it's gonna start real small, and by then it's hopefully really big, and then it comes back down for the end. So that technique of like these like wide snares, little emphasis, I'm probably going to bring into some other tracks. I'll probably, like that last track actually that I was playing, I'll probably take maybe even the same exact instrument that I made. Maybe I'll choose different samples. We'll see how it fits, but I'll probably take that and put that on the choruses, so that when the chorus comes in, since it's still the same 3 chords the whole time, at least this will have like a feeling. It'll be like, oh, like something happened here. That's the plan. So I think little things like that, little emphasis, little details can help just make something like jump out of the speakers a little bit. How are you all doing in there?
Good. That sounds good. Take a look at your master channel.
Yeah, I don't think there's really anything on it. Just a limiter right now. Yeah.
I was looking for an excuse to talk about multi-band compression.
You could do that. Animus is here too, so you got a good person to listen to.
Every time I pull that one up, I'm a little intimidated by it, and I just haven't really been initiated into how to use it yet.
Yeah. It can be intimidating for sure. You know what? I still look at this kind of like, ooh. You're basically able to expand and compress certain parts of the frequency. Up here we have everything from 250 or 2.5, I'm sorry, and above. So this is actually a nice way to. That's the end of the song. Oh no! So if I just mute this, we're not doing anything. We're splitting this. I can take away like those high frequencies with these controls. Kind of like hear which parts we're cutting out. Solo now. So you're really like what you can see is yeah, I need a refresher on this to be honest with you. Um,
I guess
uh,
part of my issue is I don't really understand the interface when you're dragging up and down and turning it blue and red and having the different number of stripes in either lane.
yeah. So and I might defer to Animus too if he wants to correct me on this because I know he's like he loves this device. He's got a lot of cool what is the word I'm thinking of presets that he's made with this. Um, but the way I'm understanding it is if you see like these like grid lines here, it's kind of showing you are we going to um, if we move it to the right, we're making the signal. We can watch it on the bass. Where okay, I keep confusing myself with where I have this starting from. We're adding, we're expanding it. We're adding gain. This is what this is, the gain reduction or addition. We're building it up. So like you're kind of like stretching it to the right or louder. You might think of it. And if we bring it down, this is like compression. So we're reducing this. This is our gain reduction. So we're seeing we're bringing it down by so many decibels. When you have it right on the, it shouldn't do anything when it's right there. And it's basically you're expanding and compressing the different sections of the music. I don't honestly use this that much. I see this as like a mastering device. It's awesome, like what you can do with it. I kind of always go to Ozone and use that. Um, but it is powerful when you
I actually just got Ozone. Could we take a look at that?
Ozone. All
Because
right.
that's very cheap right now in their community appreciation bundle.
Yeah, I've been getting those emails.
I got
Ozone.
the whole pack and have not looked back.
Nice. I might offend people a little bit, but I really do like using the mastering assistant. I don't know what Animus thinks about that. I like getting the starting place. I like having it like give me an idea of where to go, where to start. Um, I just find it handy. It's usually requires some tweaking afterwards. But here, like this is essentially like multi-band dynamics like you have in live, except it's just got a different look. So you've got like this would be the low frequency. So we got like our frequency spectrum, right? From 20 hertz to 20,000. We got our low frequencies here. And we got like I guess a low mids, a high mids, and then the highs. And each one of these you can adjust how you like. And then you've got your compressor here. So as we play it, we can see like compressor threshold. We can see the gain reduction right here. We can see the readout there. I'm compressing the bass quite a lot. We also get this nice little visual too. And this looks a lot like Ableton's compressor. If we were to pull that in the session here. This is pretty much the same look as right here. And this is honestly a lot like this look. It also has a limiter right here for you too if you want to limit it. And we got the compressor parameters, and you can actually see the fun stuff happening. Even goes into expansion, which is cool. Would that technically be called expansion? We're bringing up the quieter stuff with when we go low. Our attack, our release, the knee, which is the curvature right here, which you see over here. A little bit easier to see when we have something more extreme. And you really just have compressors for each part of the frequencies. So you can really like, suppose the bass is out of control, you can kind of tighten that up a little bit. If the high frequencies get a little wild on you, you can go in there and use the dynamics for that too.
And for you, you'd rather defer to ozone than like a long chain of Ableton's effects in the master chain.
Yeah, like I don't consider myself like, well, really like an engineer to begin with, but especially not like a mastering engineer. That's its own like art. He says if the assistant is terrible, kind of brute force with certain things, it'll always try to do. Yeah, I mean, generally I adjust it a little bit, especially with the limiter. I find it needs like some adjustment, or the maximizer is what they call it here. Um, I like it ozone. I like to use the assistant to give me like a starting point. Sometimes it's just interesting to see like what it thinks of my mix too. If it's doing like crazy equalization on here, I sometimes makes me look back a little. I mean, who knows what it's gonna say for this? We'll what I do? We'll just keep streaming. Let it work. Magic. Sometimes this gets loud, so I'm gonna just bring it down. We also have this compressor at the end of it. Look at this, like, the fact that it wanted to boost all of this in the mids and then cut all this. In a way, that kind of makes some sense to me because I don't have it the guitars playing right now, right? So they do occupy a lot of that area. So for it to boost that can make some sense. Maybe it's picking up on all those cymbals. This is why it's cutting this down a bit. Um, the maximizer is. I'm curious what it's down. Crazy, but it's definitely reacting to those drum hits. Turn it off. You can hear the high end. Now listening to it, like those, and this is not how I'm gonna mix either with these little earbuds. I like these mostly for when I'm talking, so I don't. It's just easier for me to hear my voice with these and not have to route the audio through the headphones. So I like these for stuff like this, but I don't mix with these. But I can kind of hear the harshness in that hi-hat and cymbals. That EQ is cleaning up a little bit. Looks like it's got the dynamic EQ reacting a bit too.
So maybe a good strategy is to sort of use it as a starting point and follow up with your own personal taste.
I think that's what it's kind of meant for. Um, the only time I've ever really been like, okay, ozone, whatever you say, is like on January. I'm just trying to bust something out quick, you know. Um, but I think you always have to use your ears a little bit. I wouldn't just trust it because that's what it said. I mean, we know Animus wouldn't do that, right?
I kind of see what he's saying about it being a bit of a brute force approach too.
Yeah, well, I think it like wants. It's kind of like when you get like a plugin and it has like presets or a synth. It has all the built-in presets that are like, wow, listen to what this synth can do, but like you almost never really use those sounds. Like it's more like a showcase thing sometimes. I think there might be a little bit of that going on. Like I don't think they want you to hit mastering assistant and not be able to tell what it did, because then it's like, well, what do I have this plugin for? I think there might be a little bit of that going on. It says, let's see, if you render that and run the assistant again, which I've never tried, it will give you the same settings even though it's supposedly fixed, according to his test. You might have a different version. That's interesting, to bounce the master and then put the mastering assistant on it again. I have noticed that it is pretty similar, honestly. it gives me the similar devices. Like there's a bunch of different stuff in here. I don't ever see it throwing on vintage tape in there or even the exciter. Um, there's a couple like fun things in here. The tape is kind of cool, and oh, there's the presets there. Just close it out. But these kind of add a little sparkle to your sound some. But I do think like if you really want to do it right, like it's worth getting someone that like kind of specializes in this, like our friend Animus, Perform Module, does mastering. Um, I think that's like its own separate art.
May I ask a couple of questions?
Of course.
I noticed that you apply the compressor to those link tracks over there. You use the Ableton compressor. I think, or you apply to some, right?
This to the drums.
Did you apply to those link tracks like drums or percussions?
Uh-huh.
So it was like before, right? Before pre-recorded, like during recording or after?
This is all post. This is after.
Mm-hmm. And this EQ8, are you going to apply to put to every track before mastering?
I might. And I should say, like, what I have here is very likely to change. I've got yeah, I could show you like it would be under templates. I've got like this acoustic drums template, and it's got basically what you see in here. And all of those plugins already put on all these Ableton devices, already applied. Like there was a time when I just spent a little time, and I've moved things around since then too, where I kind of EQ'd things, compressed things a little on my drums, and all of those are still kind of present. Like, I'm not so sure I'm gonna leave all this. Like at the stage we're at now, I'm not really thinking too much about mixing yet. I'm trying to mix a little bit so like it sounds good enough to listen to and it's still exciting. But I'm gonna probably go through all of this again. Might tweak things, adjust things a little bit.
Okay. It's new to me. I've never played around with like this guitar sound, mostly electronic music.
Yeah.
Even my background is classical music, but this is for the first time that I'm, looking at the like whole band and those tracks. So.
Right. Yeah, and it's different. I think one of the things about like a band, like we're just guitar, drums, and bass, and there'll be like synths and vocals too, but the guitar has like its own spot in the mix. The bass has a lower spot, and the drums kind of have their everything. It's like it's like classical. What's the word I'm looking for?
Methods, approaches.
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking of like just the ensembles. They are the way they are for a reason. You have like a string quartet. It is what it is because what is it? A cello, viola, and two violins.
Frequencies. Yeah.
Yeah, because they kind of sit in their spot. When you do electronic music, you might have like four synths that all have a ton of bass in them. Then you got to sort of deal with that a little bit.
Right.
And I think like one of the reasons like the rock band format has been so consistent, even in so many different styles of rock music, is that it's almost like kind of mixed a little bit already. Right.
Okay.
But it's definitely it presents different problems, different issues. Like the drums are always like, there's just so much more signal. Like even if you just listen to like the kick, which is extremely low right now. I even have a gate on it, right? So this is maybe a bad example. Maybe over here. You can hear the snare in there. You can hear the hi-hats in there. And then we'll get over here. Like there's a lot of information in
Right,
there.
right, right. Yeah.
Same thing with the snare.
It because the mic picked up different different
Yeah.
percussions. Mhm.
Over the course of like a bunch of tracks, that adds up to like clutter in your mix. It's just
Was
all.
was it recorded in a studio or it was live performance?
So it was recorded right behind me.
Mhm.
um, the
So
way we
not in
did
a separate room. It was like in one at
it was
once
one room,
record.
yeah. So
Mhm.
I had my guitar and the bass plugged directly into the interface, and we all had headphones on. Um,
Mhm.
so if you listen to like the overhead drums, this is like kind of getting the whole room sound. So you can't hear our guitars. Sometimes you can hear the voice.
Mhm.
Maybe not in this song because the vocals are kind of like mellow.
Right, I
But if
see.
I'm like kind of yelling a little more, but
So it's practically live performance.
it's yeah. Except we don't. You're not hearing any of the bass. I don't know why we're not hearing the vocals right now. That's weird. Oh, this is muted. Okay. Here, this is a little more of what the room sounds like. This is the vocal mic. So all that like bleed of the drums. Yeah, so that's the way we did. We all had headphones on. You can hear the. There's probably funny times when you can really hear the click. I don't hear it because he had the click so loud.
Great.
Where would that be? It's so funny how loud he has the click. Because it was. I'm really surprised we can't hear it on this track. Even like this overhead. I don't understand why that's not audible. But there are, especially on like these vocal mics, like you can just hear the click coming out of his headphones. Like really, really loud. Um, but that's so he can hear it over all of his banging on the drums, you know? Yeah, so it's like it presents interesting problems. We don't normally like play together with a click either or in headphones. So it's kind of weird and unusual as we have our headphones on and
Mhm.
you know, normally we just through a PA and through amplifiers. But then the bleed would be over all over everything. We would all have to play right. For this, we just worry about the drums. The singing is really there just to help him understand where we are in the song.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a different animal. With like when you hear like the samples here. I mean, that's all you hear. There's some reverb on it, I guess, but it's just the snare sample, and that's how it is when you like do like, you know, when I'm sequencing drums for something more electronic. You don't hear the cymbals, you don't hear the crash, you don't hear the kick. You know. So it's things to contend with. Unlike the snare, I have like a gate going that kind of cuts some of that stuff out. This is without it. Go a little more extreme. But I'll never get that cymbal out of there. That hi-hat.
It's hard.
That's just baked in. But it's okay. Sometimes if you get too much of that stuff out, though, then it loses that feeling of being like a live band. It's definitely a balance. I'm trying to like make everything neat and clean, but I also don't want to like wipe away the raw feeling of a band playing. Ultimatum. Yeah, we gotta try that. I think Neutron Assistant listens to multiple tracks, balances them against each other. Yeah, Neutron does. I haven't really played with Neutron either. I have it. I've I've not really gone deep enough. If I were to take it out now, I'd be fumbling with it, trying to figure it out. But um, there are some cool things happening with tracks listening to each other and uncovering like masking things going on between the different tracks. So
I
that's
had a oh
yeah. What's up, Yuri?
sorry. I had a question about what you did with the kicks and the snares.
Hmm.
Like you exported them to a MIDI track, so like I think you said you wanted to widen the sound. But what's the difference between like doing that to like emphasize the sound compared to using like an audio effect, like the drum bus on the kicks to make the sound bigger? Like I'm not sure how that would sound different.
So you're talking about like how I don't know why I had those missing over here. I'll just check that out for 1 second. Hope I didn't ruin our song. That seems good. So you're talking about like these samples I have here, right?
Yeah.
So though, what did I do? Oh, I remember. Okay, never mind. I'm confusing myself looking at this. I just have to undo something. It's good to have notes on what you're doing, paying attention. Um, the reason I'm doing this exporting is because this was this convert drums to new MIDI,
Mhm.
so that I can have these samples just to kind of like beef up the kick. Because if you listen to the kick, and I haven't mixed it or anything, but I wonder if I squeeze some life with some of these effects here. I did. You know, like there's not as much oomph to it as I want. So the sample gives me like some of what that kick is missing. So when I put them together, it gives me like more energy to it. Now you were asking me why I don't just like try to like put effects on it. Is that kind of the question?
Yeah, because I usually just throw like the drum bus on the audio track to
Uh
make
huh.
it kind of thicker. But I was wondering if this method makes it like heavier.
The drum bus will do a lot. Yeah, there's a lot you can do with it. You can actually add the tone, the bass tone. You can emphasize the transients a bit, um, and there's also compression on there as well. And I think even like some distortion and stuff. Uh, I didn't want to go so extreme, and I just felt like for this case, and there might be like times when you would do that, you know what you're saying, but sometimes I think I'm hearing like what the drum is lacking, the snare, and it's a lot of it. I am affecting it in a couple certain ways that it's doing this, but a lot of it's like the impact. Like I just wanted more cut through in the mix, and you can hear like I'm getting more of that in this one. A little more of that like energy. I feel like this is also like just a little. I need to bring this down a little. There we go. If I turn this all the way off, we get like even more of that energy. It's kind of, I guess, if you've ever like layered drums when you're making like drum sounds, you can use like one layer maybe for the impact and another layer for like the boom and another for maybe like a little more high energy or something, a little more like high frequencies. You can kind of like build it that way. I think it gives me a little more control, and I can get to where I want to get a little better. I think if I start putting the drum bus on here, we can even try it just for the fun of it. Again, like I've got all of this other clutter in this sound already. Like you can hear the kick, the cymbals, the snare is in there. I'm going to emphasize that. Like that stuff's gonna get louder. I do get more of that thump, which is kind of nice. Oops.
Operator is actually really good for doing this.
Operator, yeah. We can talk about that too. That's like, so, you know, I can get more out of it, but I'm dealing with more of that background stuff too. So I'm finding that the samples work better in this case. And what I'm not sure who said that, maybe Spooks or Column, but the operator is actually very handy, and I'm using the operator on the snare. So I've got the snare sample. Here's my snare. And the snare has this like ringing dong dong, this like tone that I'm not thrilled about. So I've got this snare instrument which has, actually this one isn't even on. It's got this snare sound, and it's also got an operator. And the operator is set to noise in this case, just to give me like a little more snare drum rattle. Turn it off. And I could even emphasize it a little more. The operator is almost serving like if I had a mic on the bottom of the snare drum. Oh, we're out of time here. So that's without the operator. Bring it in. So that gives me a lot of control over that I don't think I would get if I was just using some effects. I had it pretty subtle. I think I had about 30 or so. It's just a little bit.
Also, if you have the sound in your head that you're going for, operator can add exactly what you're looking for to any kind of drum.
Yeah, we could put operator on there. Maybe we want like a tone. You know, we can use like the sine wave. Operator can be really cool like that. I'm just gonna save this because now I'm starting to do things I might not want to keep. But if I have, well, actually it doesn't matter on this one. So right now that operator is hitting with that, right? Maybe I'll change this to fixed so I can just pick the frequency I want. Let me think about this. This song, it's like G. So we could probably just use the tuner, I think. I know like the kind of root note of the song is G. Where do we go? It's not until over here. So I need to, I could go, wherever I want, like a G. So I'm just tuning this frequency down until I'm getting like a G reading out. Something like that would be acceptable. So now the operator is just doing that. It doesn't have to be a G, it could be just something like a D maybe. That kind of sits well with G. And I might just like and then
pitch envelope works really good for that too.
the pitch envelope, yeah. We can get a little bit of more of an impact this way.
808 sound.
Oh, for the 808s, yeah. Make this more extreme. Without the pitch envelope. Gives us a little bit more this? We lost them. We must filter envelope. Let's see. I'm just playing games now. But that's just all that operator for now. That's if I want that tone. But it just gives me much more options, I think, than just effects alone would. I guess that's the quick answer for my 10 minutes explanation.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it makes a lot more sense. Like it's a
Yeah.
cool way to try it out, and I'll have a go at it.
Yeah, cool. It's fun too, you kind of like pick like what characteristics you want of the sound and put them together. Whereas I'm kind of stuck with whatever that kick drum sounds like behind me, and it's the drum he's willing to leave at my house, so it's not like the best thing in the world either. So I'm kind of using some little sound design tricks to make it sound a little better, basically.
Yeah, I didn't know the drum bus like kind of affects everything. I thought it was just like the bass tone or something, but that makes sense if you're only trying to like pinpoint one specific area of the
Yeah,
drums. So
right. I love the drum bus. It's great. It'll probably make its way on here in various places. I might even have it already. I already have one on here for now. It doesn't look like it's doing too much, but it is compressing. Um, but yeah, I just find I've got a lot more to work with by having the extra track with an extra sample and all that good stuff. But you play around with it, different songs, different music calls for different tools and different techniques. I was particularly interested in trying to use samples to augment the drums in this project. That was something I wanted to try, to play with some samples, some synthesis to give the drums a little extra life, and things like this wide snare over here. I just wanted to see how it worked out. And it's been fun. Part of what I always try to do a little bit of is when I am working on some sort of project is like things I want to work on, things I want to experiment with, so that even if these songs come out totally terrible or no one listens to them or we all hate it or we break up or whatever, at least I'm like growing, as I'm doing it. But I guess that sort of happens automatically, but it's like a deliberate thing I wanted to pay attention to with the drums.
Cool. Can I make a quick suggestion for something?
Please.
You were naming those little notes that kind of come in between that you didn't put a MIDI on. You were naming it a ghost note. And I'm not. This isn't. But I'm going to suggest naming it a phantom note after Muhammad Ali's Phantom Punch against Sonny Liston.
Okay.
Because I don't know if anyone knows about this, but that punch, it was a punch that was very controversial because it kind of came out of nowhere and didn't seem to have a great effect, but knocked him out, or so they say. But notes like that kind of, you mightn't necessarily hear very clearly, they could still have this little, this effect for it, they could still have an effect on the listener. So I think it's kind of reminiscent of that event, that a punch that doesn't seem to do much could actually change the whole thing. So
right. I like that. I'm gonna look it up. Looks like I found the video.
Yeah.
To watch. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's the kind of idea actually. And I think that's how he was playing it, and I think that was his intention. It wasn't. Those notes weren't meant to be like super prominent, but when I have the sample on it, it's just like brings it up so much. And that's something I'm figuring out as I'm going through this, playing around with the samples. It's like, oh man, that is like more than I needed. Like we don't want to emphasize that so much. We want to let that be kind of phantomy, ghostly, and it actually makes it fit better sometimes too. Some of that, like I was kind of like, as we're talking about like the parts, I was kind of suggesting to leave a lot of that stuff out just to keep things clean and solid, really like it's obvious like these are the notes of the drum part. But as I start emphasizing things, like some of like the phantom or ghost notes on the snare drum where he's just sort of dragging the stick, letting the stick bounce after he hits it. Um, Once the sample went in there on the crack of the snare, that little like kind of extra, like it was like, like that little like rattle ghosty thing that a lot of drummers do. It sounded nice when it was kind of pushed further back by putting something bigger on the actual emphasized sound. But cool, we'll watch Muhammad Ali's Phantom Punch later.
You can say what you think of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, who knows? The accumulation of all kinds of punches in a boxing match and to scramble your head a little bit.
I always say in that regard, you can never really take away from the punch of a guy who weighs over 200 pounds,
Yeah.
Doesn't matter where it comes from.
That's true. A lot of weight behind that. A lot of momentum. So I'm hoping the next couple weeks and months we're going to start making some more progress on this. Reaching the milestone of finishing the drums was huge, and once we get the basses down, I find once that stuff is solid, a lot of the other stuff comes a little bit easier. It makes it. It's funny, like when you're playing songs with people and you're still kind of writing them as you're playing them. We're all sort of playing like this like blurry version of the song. Like my part is kind of like this, but it kind of changes and it depends on what they're playing. And we all have that. We have this sort of like cloud area of what we're playing. But once it gets like put down, like, oh, that's the drums, and now the bass has to go with the drums. It has to be right there with it. Then it makes my part a little more obvious. Like, oh, well, I can't play that the way I was doing it. I have to change it to this other way. And that it's nice to see like the stuff kind of like the bass part will definitely inform like how I play my guitar part, and the stuff comes along I think a little faster. And then once those are down, then that sort of informs like how other things are going to be laid down.
Are you guys still writing at the moment? Are you still moving up?
I'm sorry?
Are you guys still creating new music or just mixing? So,
well, I kind of consider this part of the writing process. Like we've been playing these songs and like jamming on them and working on them for months and months. But kind of like I said, like it was like this blurry version of the song, and now everything's coming into focus. So like there is a lot of writing that's happening, even like in this song, like in some of the changes. Like I'm sort of thinking like we do this like little stop before each section. You can see it in the drums. Like part of me is kind of saying like maybe we shouldn't do this one in the beginning. Maybe save it so it doesn't happen 3 or 4 different times. Just little things like that. You're kind of saying like maybe we should change that. Maybe we should fix that. I mean, that would be an easy thing for me to just edit. I can just kind of like copy this little part and paste it right over here, and it'd probably work just fine into the next section. But we'll see. I'm not making too many of those like executive decisions on my own. Usually want to see what they think too. But it does help to like this is still part of the writing process in my mind.
Could I ask a question on recording, actually recording kind of acoustically or live recording? Um, if I was play, let's say I've got a couple of acoustic songs and I'm having, or I kind of played the guitar and then sang separately and then put them together, and I found it sounded kind of, it didn't, it didn't sound as good. It's like that it was lost some of its life or something.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm recording, if I have my mic stand and maybe my guitar plugged in or something, if I played guitar and sang at the same time and there was maybe a bit of bleed in, is that still a method of recording, that you play the guitar at the same time as singing, maybe with the guitar plugged in or something?
Oh, definitely. I'm sure a lot of great recordings, probably like Bob Dylan stuff, was done that way. Early stuff. Yeah, like it depends what you want to get, you know, like sometimes, especially like singer and one instrument like that, like whether it's piano, guitar, like you're doing it together, you know, you're moving with yourself, and um, sometimes it's really hard to recreate that if you do things separately, because um, I don't know, maybe you record the guitar to a click now all of a sudden, and then you're going to sing over the click, and that might change just the performance quite a bit, which will mean like the vocals will be changed. But if you're kind of like playing loose without any sort of click or metronome, the natural like changes in tempo as you maybe get more excited for the chorus, you speed up a little or mellow out at certain parts. You can maintain that if you record it all at once. Um, so it would depend. Like if I felt like the performance was like really good, you know, the person playing, or if I was doing it, if I felt like I could nail it, I would probably want to do it that way because it's the most natural way. And this is something we thought about with the band too. You know, we were like, why don't we just record it live? You know, we'll do it like the way we play it. And we'll capture. I mean, inevitably, it's gonna sound more like exciting, and more like pumped. You know, we're gonna be in the moment, and like that energy of playing live is like kind of hard to deny. But it won't be as neat and clean either. So there's sort of like, I think like a balance you have to strike, and like if the person is just that good, the performer is just that good, like sometimes you just let them do it. Like just record it live with your two mics. Everything's gonna bleed. It's gonna be hard to do overdubs, but um, if the performance is that good, you almost don't want to mess with it. The reason we went into all this like overdub stuff is because we just figured if we wanted to do a live take, we could just do a live take one day. That would be like an afternoon. We could do it. So, um, but yeah, it depends, I guess. I know what you're saying though. Like when you separate it, it changes.
Yeah, I think also going with the metronome kind of seemed to put me off or something.
Yeah. Well, I
You
bet if
know,
I bet if you do an experiment where you just record yourself live and then put it inside, put it in Ableton and look at the grid, and try to figure out, or even do like uh you can do the what is it called, follow, right? What is it? It's follow, right? I'm not thinking of it. Tempo follower. Yeah, you turn that on and click follow. You gotta tell it what to follow. So you tell it to follow like whatever your mic is on your guitar, say. Select that, and then just play your guitar and watch the BPM go all over the place. You'll literally see, like yeah. I'll show you real quick. Like I'll do a new set, so I don't want to mess up the tempo on here. But if I think I have it already set to my mic, and I'll just Does it have to be playing? Is that the deal? You can see that's just like, it's not staying consistent for a second there. Doesn't seem to be reacting quite the way I expected it to. Let's just do, oh, you know what? Let's do this. Let's actually select my interface. There we go. My mic is 1, I believe. Is that right? No, oh man, I deleted all that stuff. Okay, never mind. That I lost all my. I had everything named. I had to delete my preferences because live was crashing. I lost all that. It's annoying. Okay. Anyway, it should start dropping. So it follows your tempo. Is what I'm just trying to show you. And if you play the guitar to it, I bet you'll see it moves all over the place as I'm talking. It's jumping around like crazy.
It's cool.
Yeah, it's kind of funny to like watch yourself play. It's nice too if you're just trying to figure out like what the BPM should be. You can just kind of play and it'll give you usually a pretty decent idea. I haven't used it to like actually perform with and like have like loops and things triggered to a drummer, but I have used it to like figure out like what my BPM was while I was playing, just like a guitar, and that's kind of nice. But yeah, you'll see like you're not gonna stay. I highly doubt you'll stay very consistent. You know, it's just how we are as humans. Maybe you have great time, but even still, I bet it would fluctuate quite a bit. So when you put the metronome on, it takes all those like emotional movements you do when you get excited or when you're trying to like mellow out a little bit and you slow down.
It's cool. It's kind of interesting how naturally our timing isn't perfect, and yet we're producing music we have the timing perfect.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty interesting when you take some older songs and put it in live and like try to warp them and watch what happens. You know, look at how much they drift off the grid. When I was doing these, you know, the templates, the arrangement templates, I remember doing like some of the Beatles songs, and I like couldn't believe how much I would put the song in live, and then warp it so that it was in time with the grid, and I was like, wow, this song slows down so much, or this song speeds up so much. It's, you know, you don't notice it really. You're not like, hey, the Beatles slowed down, but because it feels good with the music. But yeah, like a lot of those old songs like were just how the band played. They were just that good.
It's the feel, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the feel, you know. It's just kind of natural. Like the tempo fluctuates with the movement of songs. It's almost like auto-tune and vocals, right? Like a lot of great singers are, you would never want to auto-tune them because like part of like the magic of what they do is how they move between notes and how they, you know, rise up to hit the pitch or they drop off the pitch when they're done singing the note, and auto-tune would totally correct that. So yeah, it's like you have to sort of like make those decisions of how, what you want to keep, what kind of humanity you want, or do you want it to sound like really perfect or computerized or robotic? You know, it's not. It's just different flavors for different times, for different styles.
I'm now imagining Leonard Cohen auto-tuned. I don't like. I don't like that idea.
Don't do that. You know. There's some great videos. Like if you look at like Rick Beato's got some nice videos. Like he like corrects the timing of John Bonham from Led Zeppelin, and it's like, oh, like no, because like it was all his groove was in like how he kind of his timing like really breathes and moves, it changes. Auto tuning like certain singers, and you're just like, oh man, like it just zaps it the soul out. But there's a lot of like really cool music that is super on time and quantized and in tune. You know, it just works for that.
I remember the audio video you're talking about, and I literally grimaced
Yeah,
remembering what that sounded.
yeah. He talks about that sort of stuff a lot, about um, how that has like taken a lot of the feel out of music, and um, I think rock music like does kind of rely on, not rely, but like it's a feature, you know, that like things like get more exciting and then kind of sometimes they slow down and speed up. Sometimes a lot of the emotion happens in that.
I had a couple of questions about your default template.
Okay, there's not a ton going on right now.
Well, that's kind of the point. I see that you're kind of minimalist, and I was curious if there are any choice, like no matter how small and slimmed down your template file is, you want to do these things to save yourself time every time.
Yeah, I guess like the way I kind of do that is a little more. So, like my audio tracks, every time I make an audio track, it has this channel strip on it. And you can set like you can change any parameter you want on, you can pan to the left, you can turn the sends up, you can have clips in there. And if you save that as your default, every time you create a new audio track, it will have those things the way that you left them. And you can just do that by right clicking and save as default audio track. Right? Um, and that gets saved in your user library under defaults, under creating tracks, audio tracks. So this is my default audio track. I didn't drag it the way you like it. So I'll just show you, right? Like I'll create a new one, default audio track. So it's going to overwrite the one I had before, which I just dragged over here. And now when I create a new audio track, it's going to look exactly like this one. I didn't save the send. I thought it saved the send. How about that? It doesn't save the send. But if I had clips, if I had devices in there, it would save all that. And if I want to go back to what I had, I'll just save that one as default audio. And now every time I create a track, I got that device there.
Have you ever experimented with having a very involved template file that had a lot of stuff on it and just gave you a good starting point?
Yeah, but what I've kind of like changed that to now is like some of these like if I want with my acoustic drums, where'd they go? They're probably in here. Acoustic drums. So I want this in my hardware, so I'm gonna make this a favorite here. So whenever I want to do drums, I'll just drag this in here. And I'm so sad that it lost all my naming conventions. Oh man. Right now, I'll just open those up. So when I drag this in here, it's got my acoustic drums. It's kind of like a template, really. But it's for the drums. It's got some of those effects that we were talking about earlier. It's got my kick, and it's got the right mic selected, my snare, all these effects on it, my rack tom, floor tom, and the overheads. So that's right there. If I want a DI guitar, whoops, I can just drag that into a track. And this should be set up, I believe, too. It's probably got like amplitude. Yep. So that's ready to go for a guitar. And even like the synths around me, I've got ones for those too. But I keep that stuff like over here. So that's more how I work these days. I have had like more in-depth templates, but this seems to be working okay for now. Like whenever for instance when we play with the band, it would be, I guess, under here, Some Good Evil. That's what we're calling the band. I just opened this session, and it's got the drums. Inside the drum group is a tom group, the overheads. It's got the bass guitar. This is a mic on a bass amp. This is the mic on the guitar amp. And then this is the output of the mixer for the vocals. So we're just like good to go. I just throw this on and record, enable everything, and just hit record, and we're recording. So it's not this whole big setup thing. So that's like using a template, I guess. That's one I've been using a lot lately.
Interesting discussion for the Discord is seeing what everybody's default template looks like.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you could save like your MIDI mapping and stuff in there too, which
Mine is kind of insane right now. Mine's huge, and I'm thinking about wiping the table because originally the intention was if I'm making a group of songs that I want to sound like they're on the same record together, why wouldn't I have the same starting point and a similar master chain for each of them? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good idea, and it's helpful. It'll help you get going. It's kind of like this, really. I mean, like every time we practice, I just open this up and just record it. It's not a big thing, and it gives us like a consistency when I go to like mix down our recordings. Usually I'll like take like the highlights of our practice and break it up into tracks and just send it to the guys so they can hear it. And I find that's really helpful to like listen back over the week. It's almost like practicing, just hearing it. And it's nice and easy. I don't really have to do too much to it because it's kind of sounds decent to begin with. I don't think I have anything special on this even. For that, I usually take Ozone and just do the mastering assistant and a little bit of adjusting. It's not an important recording, so it's just throw Ozone on there and it'll just help a little. Yeah, like for that kind of stuff, I love Ozone. It's just great. It's quick and easy. It's not so important, so it doesn't have to. I'm not looking to labor over it. I'm looking really just to give them something presentable that they can hear, that we can all listen to in the time between our practices. But I find that's like, as far as playing in a band, like recording everything and just listening to it is so helpful. It's a reality check.
As a solo artist, I get kind of concerned sometimes that if I stick with one of those template files too long, I'm going to get into habits and start making everything sound similar.
Mm-hmm. Well, the good news is you don't have to delete it, you can just make a new one and fool around with it. Yeah. So it's like, it's not all or nothing. You just try a new one, see if it sounds good. And you can always combine the best of both into a third. All right. Animus says BandLab has free online mastering that's top notch. Nice. Good to know. And I take his word for it.
I had previously bought a mastering chain from, I think it was Holdings, and been using that for forever. And theirs is good too.
I don't know what this is. TOS Tempo. What is this here? This is something they put in the chat. TOS. Is that something really obvious that I should know?
Is that the automation mapping for the tempo?
I'm thinking really that's slow. Like what happens to the tempo over the course of a song. TOS. I don't know what that is. I would believe it though that things change that much, that frequently, on especially like some sort of Rock band. That's the next tempo song. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So you're changing the tempo on purpose then. That's something you can do too to like, if you are to the grid, you can automate tempo changes. Mix things up. Matching it to his natural playing. It's a great idea. That's something that I don't think gets done enough, honestly. Just little things like before the chorus. This is obviously really intricate. But even if you just like when you got to the chorus, just put it up a couple BPM. Just you don't even have to notice it, but you'll feel it. And a lot of times it's probably best if you don't even really notice it. You just kind of, it's just kind of a little emotional thing. Little details, little things like that, combined with all the other little details that makes a big impact over time. Well, folks, we're hitting the 2-hour mark here. Went to town tonight. I think we might wrap this one up here. There's nothing else.
Brian, may I have 2 minutes of your time after the session?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Well, that was fun. And again, it gives me a lot to think about myself too. There's I appreciate all the stuff in the comments. That's some good information and good things to think about. I might play around with some of that tempo mapping stuff. I didn't really think about that in our recordings, but maybe give it a shot if it doesn't affect the audio too much. If I can get away with it, I might try subtle things. Like I'm talking like only like 1 or 2 BPM maybe here or there, but just give it a shot. If I don't like it, if it messes things up, I'll take it out. But yeah, good talking to you guys. I'm glad you were able to make it out tonight. This, well, second day of summer now. Here, at least, in Northern Hemisphere. But I hope you guys all have a good night. We'll make another one of these happen soon.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming out, and I hope to see you again soon.